Hey, Corona TV viewers, this is Peter Keys from Leonard Skinner. I want to wish you all a happy birthday.
First of all, let's just do the elbow bump because we can't do the handshake right now.
Hello, everybody on Corona TV. This is Macy Gray.
You're smiling, and I saw your beautiful daughter earlier, who I said could come on the show anytime. Welcome, Shiv Singh.
Thanks for having me, Joseph. Great to be with you.
Happy Friday, everybody. It's Friday again. It was Friday yesterday, and it was Friday the day before. I swear to you, I keep saying it, but it keeps happening. Every day is Friday, and I'm stuck in Groundhog Day, but I'm happy. I'm happy because I am living my dream. I'm happy because I have my dream guest. I have Laura Gassner Otting on the show, and I think her book, in fact, I know that her book is probably, I would say, inarguably the book for these times. This is the book we needed right now. This is a prophetic book, and timing is everything, and the message is so important. And we've heard many of these messages over the course of the last 3 months on Corona TV. This idea of finding, your point of differentiation, your uniqueness, pursuing your passion, being happy. But I think it all comes together and converges when we actually talk about this idea of limitless. So a few little shout outs. Natalie Siston, who is thanking Seth Sparks for recommending her to come on today. And she said, Laura is great. Yes, she is. Bob Farnham says it's Friday already. Unfortunately, well, maybe fortunately, I don't know. It's just for me, Saturday is Thursday is Friday, and Joey is here. Yeah, we're gonna have a great show. There are a couple of things that I wanted to just chat to you about, and the first is, I moved away from numbers. I moved away from numbers and giving you the daily counts, and But we hit a couple of milestones, and the numbers have changed. We've hit 2 million cases in the US, and now suddenly we found out that, maybe not suddenly, that we could hit about 170,000 deaths by September, and some people are saying maybe even more, maybe another 100,000. And it's a little depressing. I mean, like, how could it not be? And then at the same time, dealing with so many different crises at the moment, and certainly this crisis of confidence and identity in the US, where finally I feel the US is coming to terms facing its heresy, its fears, and dealing with that reality. And of course, I'm talking, not just about George Floyd, but so many people who have paid the ultimate price based on nothing more than the color of their skin. And so there's a lot of stuff going on. This morning I went for a run, and basically my ideas, things that flow into my little pea brain, come to me either when I'm running or in the shower, most of the time in the shower. But today, suddenly it hit me. And look, I am not a conspiracy theorist, and I don't play one on TV either. But suddenly I had this moment of clarity. We know that the United States has prioritized the economy over lives. And maybe it's not meant to be as brutal or stark as that, but this idea of saying, we need to open up this economy. And it hit me that we are basically sacrificing our elderly and our infirmed and people with serious chronic pre-existing conditions. I'm not saying that decision has been made in our government, but I think it's fairly obvious that the decision has been made, which is we are prioritizing the economy, number one, and we are therefore pursuing herd immunity. We haven't admitted it, but we might as well have admitted that we have decided to pursue herd immunity. And whether or not that in fact comes at the price, and we have made that explicit decision, or even implicitly, maybe that decision was made in the bunker. That's what I think has happened. And I'm not going to get too heavy on it. We're not even going to address it again on the show, but it's something to think about. I wanted to share it with you. If you think I'm crazy, tell me I'm crazy. But I did, as I said, I wanted to share that nonetheless. Well, enough of that. Let's talk about next week's interviews. A little change, kind of, interesting, because both Laura and I are Ideapress authors. Both of our books were actually acknowledged and won awards. And Rohit Bhargava is our publisher. Ideapress is his company, and he is an author and a thought leader and a speaker in his own right. And he's going to be coming in next week. Also, Joe Polizzi unfortunately had to postpone, but Saul Colt is going to fill in for him, and he's going to be doing Corona cocktails with me. So that means Tuesday's show will be at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will be drinking. And when Saul and Joseph get together and drink, only bad things can happen. As always, I just want to thank you for liking, for commenting, for sharing, for subscribing. I see people have done that already today. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you. And thank you for helping support me and the show. Today is National Red Rose Day. Red Rose Day. Not Red Rum Day, Red Rose Day. And I thought it was also appropriate because today, ABC's The Bachelor announced that Matt James is the new Bachelor. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. This is controversial. This is controversial. Not everyone is going to like what they're seeing. And with reason, I have to say. Why? Because everybody expected it to be Mike Johnson. I mean, Mike should have been the Bachelor, and instead it's going to be Matt James. Now, Matt James was meant to be on Claire's season, the Bachelorette season, but now they've changed it. And obviously, in all seriousness and sincerity, this is the first time that the franchise is running with a black bachelor, a black male bachelor, and it is important, and it is needed, and it is necessary. So, Mike, still love you, man, but looks like it's just going to be Matt, and we're just going to have to deal with that. So, quick bunch of happy birthdays. Happy birthday to you, my Facebook friends. Happy birthday to you, my LinkedIn friends. I want to go straight into the seated soliloquy, which, of course, is inspired by and connected to my guest, Laura. And, appropriately, it is called Limitless. So I'm actually going to begin with an excerpt from my book, Built to Suck. I once met a genius of a man. To protect his identity, we'll call him Len Hauser. Well, actually, his name is Len Hauser, and he doesn't need protecting. Len told me that there are two types of people, numerator and denominator people. You'll probably get it immediately, but just in case, I'll explain. Numerator people are focused on top line growth, maximizing the unlimited upside, if you will. Denominator people are geared around the bottom line, specifically minimizing all costs and all expenses. So which one are you? You'll probably say you're a numerator person, but you'd be lying, wouldn't you? Well, that was the excerpt. When the pandemic hit, who do you think took over? The numerator or the denominator people? Well, of course, it was the denominators, the cost cutters, the furloughers, the layoffers, the thoughts and prayers, and we're all in this together. These were no rebels, misfits, troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. To be limitless, we need to summon our inner numerator. We need to truly believe that the sky is the limit and be all in on life. To be clear, this does not mean there's no place for denominator people. Quite the contrary. The denominators anchor us, they ground us, but they can never, ever weigh us down, or we will sink. The denominators keep us honest, and they provide a counterbalance to the reality distortion field that can so easily give way to hubris, arrogance, and the Icarus effect. In a perfect world, we need a balance, a partnership of sorts, whether that's a relationship between spouses, employees on a team, or co-founders of a startup. But if you had to ask me to choose one, if I had to choose only one, hands down, I would go limitless. I would go numerator. I would go unmitigated upside versus mitigated downside. But hey, that's just me. Well, what about you? Where would you go? Well, I don't even need to ask my guest which one she would be. Laura Gassner Otting is an acclaimed keynote speaker, best-selling author, coach, and confidence catalyst. I love that, confidence catalyst. She helps people discover their consonance, how they align what they do with who they are to achieve their limitless potential. Along her journey in the non-profit sector, she was asked to do a TEDx talk, and it was so popular that it actually launched a speaking career. I'm definitely going to ask her that. Laura has spoken across the United States and internationally to universities, companies, conferences, accelerators, TEDx, of course, and the US military. Well, it's time to bring her on. Welcome to the show, Laura.
Hi, it's great to be here. What a great soliloquy.
So that in your honor.
I love it. It's amazing. I am an unbridled numerator.
I mean, I just love that way of thinking about life.
I'd never heard it. I never heard it put that way before. And I always say that I'm a boundless optimist. And, you know, I often end up getting crushed with disappointment. But if the option is to grow a cold, hard heart and not be endlessly excited about possibility, I just don't want to live that life.
Yeah, I mean, it's also the thing about the denominator people, right? The downside is known. And it is mitigated, right? It's the cost, right? We invested this amount of money. We got a loan. We started a business. But the numerator people, it's unlimited, right? Sky's the limit.
Yeah, I was at an event in November, this Thinkers 50 event with our friend Dory Clark. And the event was going to be the following day. And so she had organized this dinner. And at the dinner, somebody across the table was like, well, you know, what's your plan for networking tomorrow? And I said, well, I don't really have a plan. I'm just going to, you know, go do interesting things with interesting people and see what happens. And he decides he wants to, you know, network explain me. And he's like, well, you know, well, I find that you really need to go in and you need to have a plan. And if you go in and you have a plan, then you can actually accomplish on, you know, execute your strategy. He goes, take, for example, NASA. If NASA didn't have a plan, they were just going to go up into space. Would they have ever gotten to the moon? And I was like, no offense, dude, but that basically goes against everything I've ever done in my entire life. Like if NASA had just gone up into space, maybe they wouldn't have gotten to the moon. Maybe they wouldn't have gotten to Mars back then. I don't know. We don't know. But like if you make a plan and that plan is to get to the top of the mountain, then you go to the top of the mountain. But if your plan is to just see what's out there, when you get to the top of the mountain and you see 7 other mountain ranges, you can keep climbing. And so this idea of only setting specific expectations and having only specific possibility out there, I think reduces all of us to less than we're all capable of being.
Or maybe they were looking in the wrong direction, because I saw earlier a CNN alert. Where is it? Well, there was one about Melania Trump delaying her move to DC because she was negotiating her prenup. That's not it. It's the fact that they have found apparently huge unidentified structures deep inside the Earth.
Oh my gosh, they found Atlantis.
Maybe.
That's incredible.
I just saw it earlier. And I wonder where it is. I'll find it later.
Yeah, I think there are 3 things that remain unexplored: space, the deep sea, and our brains. I think those are like the 3 things that are still like.
So wait. So there's more time for us streamies then, right? To be able to. There's more content out there for us. We haven't hit all the topics, thank God.
We have not hit all the topics.
I was thinking, you know, like, I came up with this idea of like you and I, we're streamies. We're like brothers and sisters, and we all started streaming and doing this in earnest when we stopped speaking and we stopped traveling. And there's something like amazing about being a streamy, which is I feel like there's a tremendous sense of camaraderie and generosity. People aren't hoarding software. They aren't hoarding hardware. They're helping one another with guests. It's a beautiful thing.
So I have a theory about that. I think that, and I love the term streamies. I love being a streamie. That is a club I never thought I wanted to be a member of, and
Yeah.
that is a club I never thought I'd have the technical capacity to be the member of.
And you don't need to see a urologist over it as well, which is fine. So that's
Exactly.
good. And
But here's the thing. I think that those of us who are willing to be open and invite people into our lives and go live, and like, you don't know what's going to happen, you don't know what your guest's going to say. I think that there is an openness that goes hand in hand with an abundance mentality. Right? Like, we are all about an abundance mentality. And so, of course, people who are willing to go live and have guests and just put themselves out there in this, like, I don't know how this technology works, but I'm going to figure it out. Today I'll do the lighting. Tomorrow, maybe I'll figure out the camera. The next day we'll do the microphone. I think the willingness to not be perfect in front of your audience and the willingness to invite people into this and have abundance and share among, of what you know, goes hand in hand with also wanting to share technology tips with friends, to share guests, to cross promote other people. I think it's an abundance mentality thing.
yeah, but I disagree vehemently with one thing you said, which is because you just might be perfect. So this imperfection thing, I have to take issue with it.
I feel like I need to show you and your audience what is actually happening here, because it looks perfect. Can I switch the camera for a second?
I would love you to show off.
Okay, this is what's really This is what's really happening right now. I'm sitting here in my jean cutoff shorts, and I've got my booth that I put together with these, like, a frame, like the 2 step and release frames, and these are moving blankets and an old camp blanket, and here I am in front of the camera in front of you. There's no perfection. There's no perfection.
I love it. I would stand up and show you my shorts too, but I'd probably mess up the green screen, which I've done many times on the show, talking about imperfection.
As long as you're really wearing shorts, because Yeah,
don't worry.
It's not that kind of show.
but exactly, that's Corona cocktails. It's cold. Little plug there. But also, your journey has been, has been amazing too, and you've done all these things in this process. This is probably not a fair photo because you were on Good Morning America. When I say fair, is you've been on Good Morning America in the flesh before, but you were just on now, and you did that all from from your studio.
Yeah, well, they called me. So I was on stage. I shared a stage, however you're supposed to say it, with Robin Roberts, but I didn't meet her because I was in the book signing line. And then by the time I got backstage, she was already on stage. And before she came off stage, I had to race to the airport. So I never got to meet her. But Bill Williams, who is one of the greatest MCs and hosts of events that I've ever met, when I came back, I said, "Oh man, it's such a bummer that I'm not going to get to meet Robin Roberts. She's one of my sheroes." And he said, "All right, here." He picked one of my books up from the stack, and he's like, "Here, sign it, make it really good, and I'll make sure she gets it." So I did, and he did. And then 3 days later, I get, like, my phone blows up, and it's like Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, everything. And apparently she had taken a quote from the book that she read on the flight home and just sent it out to, like, her millions of followers, and then hands my book to her producer and says, "Book her on the show." So she invited me to the show. And then the day before we were supposed to be there, they flew me down, the whole thing. I get an Instagram message from her saying, "I'm so sorry. I got pulled off the set tomorrow. I won't be there, but Amy Robach's going to interview you." And so Amy interviewed me. It was amazing. It was great. But I still didn't get to meet Robin. And then about every 3 months, the producer calls me with this, like, "Hey, here's an idea for a segment." And we just haven't been able to make it work yet. And then 2 weeks ago, she called me. She's like, "Hey, here's an idea for a segment." And they decided to do it, and they decided to use me, because there's like 2 things. They have to like the segment, and they have to decide that you're the expert that they actually want. So you can help build the entire segment and then go with somebody else. But they did it. And then she got pulled off again last week. So they moved the segment. They were like, "We'll just do it some other time." And I thought, it's not going to happen again. But then on Sunday afternoon, the producer sends me a text message, and she was like, "Hey, you got a second?" And TMI, but I'm like literally in the bathtub. And I was like, "Yes, I do." jump out, dry myself off, call her back. And they want to do the segment the next day. So overnight, we built this entire sound booth because we wanted to make sure everything would work. So yeah, I mean, it's TV is something I never really thought I wanted to do. And then I did the Today Show and then Good Morning America. And then I did it again. And it's really fun. It's really fun to do.
And we're doing it now. You know,
we're doing it now.
Is this TV? Is it video? Is it web? Is it streaming? What do we even call it?
Doesn't even matter.
Sight, sound, emotion. So, you know, check.
This is what I realized. Like, I spent a month after COVID first happened feeling like just kind of having like a pity party for myself and just kind of feeling like, ugh, I can't get on a plane. I can't get on a stage. Everything I've worked for the last 3 years since that TEDx got all that attention. It was for nothing, right? It's all done. And I was just so sad. And then I had this realization one day that COVID wasn't the problem, that I was the problem, that it was my lack of creativity that meant that I couldn't be on stage. Because the truth is, getting on stage is really hard. Like, you need somebody to decide that you're the one out of all the speakers and to decide that they're going to pay you and it has to be worth it. And you have to have the right calendar and all of that. It's actually really hard to get on stage. But with a webcam and a microphone and internet connection, we can be on stage right now. Like, we've created our own stage. Like, there's never been lower barriers to entry. And there's never been a more like little d democratic process to being able to put yourself out in front of somebody. If people like what you're doing on Corona TV, they'll keep coming back. If they don't, they won't. But there's no gatekeeper anymore. And I think that's incredible. So we can reach so many more people with our messages through whatever you want to call this. And for me, it started off as like, I got to check my tech so that when I actually do get hired for a virtual thing, it works. But I actually like doing this even better than the virtual keynotes now.
You know, as you were talking now, it just hit me like a ton of bricks, which is we are keynoting right now.
Yeah.
And you know, when we think about it, you're streaming every day, every weekday, right?
Yeah, every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern on my personal page. And then I have a course that I have, and in the course, I do like a 1 hour thing every Friday. So I'm getting in more reps right now than I was getting in before.
So if you think about difficulty level, right? And by the way, going back to our little streamy our streamy community, our family, it's also interesting how we all just picked a different time and we never conflicted with one another. In fact, I don't know anyone.
Although me and Brogan were at the same time.
Did he change his?
No, both of us are at 10 a.m. I know, but I actually go back and I watch his after, because the beauty of this stuff is that it just lives on your page. So you can just go back and watch it later.
And I'm like a 10. So, and it's funny because at 10 a.m. I'm typically prepping. Mm-hmm. So occasionally I'll get a little alert and then I'll watch a little bit of his and then I'll watch a little bit of yours. But think about that difficulty level, what he's doing, what you know, Brogan is a streamy, me. We're creating, like that monologue, every day new content. Yeah. Every day. I mean, talk about challenging us to like just break out of any shell or comfort zone. It's tremendous.
How much do you prepare? Because I when I first started doing it, I did like a whole script, like 3 different topics, and then I just started just writing out a couple sentences on each topic, and then I just wrote the topics, and now I just get on and I'm like, hey, it's 2:24 p.m.
This is the most extensive show notes that I've had in all, and it's actually not even show notes at all, because I just at the beginning I had much more of a preamble, mm-hmm. and now it's just, you know, I typically won't even talk about the numbers or something like that. I'll just basically say, hey, this is what's on, you know, I went for a run this morning, just a couple of like personal little tidbits, go into birthdays, etc. Mm-hmm. And now the main bulk is the soliloquy, and my goal is to bring on my guest at 2:10, and then just go as long as it as long as it takes. Yeah. So there's not too much, but you know what I found is that it's the little things that make a big difference. Like, for example, every day now I have a quote, a famous quote. Mm-hmm. And my guest has to guess what the quote is. Oh. So I'm going to show you the quote now. Okay. Tell me if you know who said this. if all you get in life is what you deserve, you will never get what you demand. Who said that?
I did say that. I actually trademarked that because I didn't know you could trademark a statement. So I just did because I thought it'd be fun.
Man, I should have trademarked join the conversation then. Every time Anderson Cooper says it, I could have got a buck.
Yep.
But like you said, I mean, like little things like that, or like those things make a difference. I'll tell you something else, that because my mind is very, very alive and fertile right now. One of the things I decided to do is have fun with green screen. And one of the aspects is I'm changing it every single day. Sometimes, like with Mark Bowden, which was still my favorite day, I had just the green screen because I was so intimidated that he would mock me or dissect me or critique me. And then what I did is, what he didn't know is that I had his background as my background.
I love that.
So he was looking at me, looking at him, using his background and my background. Today, what I did is, and I'll say one other thing.
Did you get up in the camera and do the whole Mark Bowden thing?
Little random things like, I don't know, what is this, a pen? What is this pen doing here? I don't know, I'll put the pen here. Or maybe I'll put it up. Or maybe I'll stick it up my nose. I mean,
he's fantastic.
I was like, more, I love you. But I'll tell you, Laura, like one of the things I decided is I would never make the green screen about me. I would always make it about my guests. And today, the reason why I debuted this green screen is twofold. One is because I feel it is all about you, because you are one of my guests, but also, and all my guests are me now, part of me, but also it is about Limitless. It's about me, I believe, realizing my dream and my calling, which is this ability to, prove that I don't have a face for radio, but just, I mean, and that's why I change it. So the prep, I guess the bottom line is, the small things, sometimes the last minute things, are the ones that actually hit home the hardest. So what was the question again?
Was just how much you prep. And it's what I am learning is that so it's funny because we talk about the TEDx talk, and I actually can't go back and watch it because I hate it. I can't, I like the topic of it. I like the idea, I like the message behind it, but I actually hate the talk itself because it was the first talk I ever gave. And it was in front of 2,600 people at the Boston Opera House, which, is this beautiful gold gilded walls, 3 mezzanines, crystal chandeliers. And I can't watch it because I walked out on stage and I was a TED talker. And I just, and now I get up on stage and I'm just like, here I am, cocktail party me, right? And by the way, I didn't know that cocktail Corona was a thing, or I would have said we should do this at 5. It's Friday, so, although every day's Friday. And so now I get out on stage and I'm just me. I'm just 100% me. And Erin Gargan King, who's great social media person, said that I just need to find my rant. So we were saying it was like hashtag rant 2020 was going to be our theme for the year. And now it's like hashtag Corona is the theme for the year. So that's not happening. But I'm finding that doing the streamy thing is allowing me to rant because I get on at 10 a.m. I don't really ever have a thing, but I'm just like, hey, here's what's happening today. Here's what I'm doing today. Here's how I'm feeling today. Here's a headline that's going on, and here's what I think about it. And there have been days where I have talked about what the hell do I do with all the fucking cauliflower that I'm getting from my CSA. There have been days where I have openly wept about, feeling like I lost my entire career that happened before and I have to reinvent. There are days where I'm righteously indignant about what's the state of the world and Black Lives Matter and all of that right now. And I've just been me. And what I said to people was, I will keep coming back as long as you keep coming back, thinking that like the first day I'm like, hey, I'm trying to figure out how to use this tech for when I get paid for a virtual keynote. But people kept coming back. And then I said on Wednesday, I wasn't going to do it yesterday because I went to go get my hair cut for the first time in 4 months. And I got a bunch of texts from people who weren't there on Wednesday, didn't hear me. We're like, hey, what's going on? Where are you? I'm missing I miss you today. Did I miss something? And I was surprised at how meaningful this is. Like the people who keep coming back every day to CoronaTV are here because they like what you're doing. They like what you're bringing. They like the diversity of ideas and opinions and thoughts. And, just having that placeholder in the day also, I think is really useful. So I'm really enjoying this as a medium far more than I thought I would.
And I mean, I could talk about that for hours. It's like it's brought you and me together. We didn't know each other personally, and now, well, look, I have to. I know I say this. By the way, the F-bomb count is at 1. So Laura
People
was like,
who know me are like, that's crazy low.
yeah, you were like, is that okay? And I'm like, well, look, on the continuum between, you know, Mr. Rogers and Gary V, I'm somewhere in the middle. But you can be yourself. I think I have to bring you back though, because we're going to run out of time.
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, we got to do cocktails, which will be awesome. I'll make a
what's
mean
your favorite
martini.
cocktail?
I'm going to make a nice classic gin martini, shaken extra hard with 3 olives and a little dry, but not too dry.
I like that.
So
that's good.
I will ship one over to you. You know, so we're getting so much love that I had to like, oh man, I don't even know if I can go back. Like, just, you know, you said sometimes you have down days, and you know, so well, Carla loves you.
Carla.
And of course, you know, Steve loves you, and Steve also loves the idea of we're all in this together.
I love that.
And Bob Wellheim, all the way from Brazil, says my preferable streamers. That sounds like a tongue twister. Preferable rural. But also, like, going back to what we were saying, you know, this idea of share is abundance, and I didn't mean to click on that, but what else happened as well? Oh, I know, Steve Garfield. You may have met him before.
I love Steve. He's local.
Yeah, I know. You'll probably see him on the Zoom after show.
Oh, yay!
So there are 2 points I wanted to make, which I think just build off that. The first is this idea. Right at the end of our Zoom after show yesterday, Richard Owen said, and it struck me, Laura, because it's exactly what we're talking about. He said, it's so interesting what is happening. He said, people like you, me, and therefore people like you, Laura, our production value and quality is increasing all the time.
Yeah. And
all of the established players out there, their production quality is decreasing because of what has happened. And what's happening is, at some point, we're going to and when they go back to their overproduced, retouched, you know, fake laugh tracks, I don't know that people are going to maybe have the appetite for that version of what they were fed before.
Yes, I think it's sort of like how small talk is dead. Like, have you talked to anybody in the last 4 months and said, hey, how are you? Let me get to the business. You've been like, how are you? And you actually spend 15 minutes of a 20-minute conversation talking about that. And then you rush through the business. You're like, you're great. Let's sign. We're done. Fine. Yeah. Small talk is dead. I think fake is dead. I think influencers are dead. I think inauthentic is dead. I think we are seeing people who are talking about what really means something to them, who they are, why they do what they do. You know, during COVID, this pause where everyone's like, do I really want to go back to the office? Do I really want to go back to what I'm doing? No. During Black Lives Matter, we're seeing people that are amplifying voices of Black men and women who are sobbing and who are crying and who are saying, let me explain this to you in ways that you can understand. Like, it is real, it is gritty, it is full-hearted and full-throated. And I don't know that we can go back to the veneer afterwards. I think it's nonsense. And, you know, I think, look, meaning matters so much. There's a store in like the upper Michigan Peninsula called Bronner's that sells millions of Christmas ornaments every year. And so I'm Jewish like you. I grew up in a nice Jewish home in Miami, and I thought Christmas was Santa at the mall with the fake snow. Like, I never saw snow. I never saw Christmas. I never had any of it. Like, that was like the week that they had Santa out, that was Christmas. And then I married a nice Catholic boy from Ohio. And I went to his home for the first time. And I had thought, like, if I ever have Christmas, I'm going to have the perfect Christmas tree with like the perfect white lights and the perfect silver ornaments, and everything's going to match, because that's what it looked like in the mall. It was so pretty. And then I went home to his home in Cincinnati, and his mother started pulling out of the attic these like worn, tattered boxes with these horrible, ugly, mismatched personalized ornaments that were like, this one's green and that one's blue and this one's ceramic and that one's felt. And I was just like, don't they know that perfect Christmas is out there? Don't they know? And then she started telling the story. Like, this is the one that Jonathan's great aunt Sue gave when he was first born for his baptism. And this is the one that we got when we got married. And this is the one from, our trip to Niagara Falls. And I fell in love with the perfect imperfection of all of it. And the store in the upper of, the peninsula of Michigan sells 2 million of these ornaments a year, these horrible, ugly, mismatched ornaments, because meaning matters, right? They get it. And I think all of us are having this like awakening right now. Where we're like, oh, it's not about the perfect silver, beautiful veneer. It's about the ugly felt and crystal and ceramic and, popcorn ornaments that like came home from preschool. And I don't know that we can go back. Like, I don't believe in the new normal because I never accepted the old normal. But hell, if I'm not going to make the new normal even better because I'm going to insert authenticity with a shoehorn into it every chance I get.
Sorry,
I think that's what we're doing here.
I have to ask you this question. Have you ever used or told that story in a presentation or a keynote before?
No.
Because
Did you think I was going into a bit?
No.
I should. I don't know. I just thought about it right now.
No. We're too imperfect to have bits. I'm saying I was genuinely asking. Have you ever told that story before?
No.
But I asked it kind of knowing what the answer was, because it didn't look like it was a bit. It needs to be a bit though, because it was, well, not a bit, but I mean that was amazing, and I was like, I'm at a Laura Gassner Otting keynote right now. This is awesome. I'm going to get the popcorn. No, but it was beautiful. Really, it was fantastic, and you should. And I would say I'm just going to, I've made 2 predictions. I'm going to make my second now. The first is that the current president is going to lose by a landslide in November, and it's not even a political statement as much as it's just a prediction. I just think, you talk about the old normal and the new normal. I just think this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
The other one is I got a feeling that you're going to end up with a daily talk show. And guess what? That prediction has already come true.
Yeah, exactly. I just gave myself one. I'm not waiting around for anyone, right? If I waited for what I deserve, I wouldn't get what I demanded. I demand a daily talk show.
Maybe it's your calling to do this. I mean, because talking about being a natural. I mean, it's and as you said, like even before, we're like, hey, this is what we're going to talk about. Maybe we're going to talk about this. I don't know. Apparently, you wrote a book called Limitless. But isn't this whole show limitless right now?
We're all limitless. I mean, I've been doing all these podcasts, just to like get the word out about the new course. And everyone's like, well, what do you want to talk about? I'm like, I don't care. Let's talk about whatever you want. Like, if people think I'm smart, they'll go find me and read my book. Like, doesn't matter to me. No, I'm so bad at self-promotion.
No, I've got scrolls. You can do more than me, though. I mean, you can do more than me. Show me your logo again, the floating logo. I love it.
Oh, yeah. The floating logo.
Make you go full screen.
Yeah, so I learned, but I got to find the right screen to do. I didn't know there was going to be a quiz. Here we go.
Or you could do a, what could you do?
There it is. Wait, did it come out? It didn't come out.
Not yet. You could do a camera angle change if you want.
Oh,
there it is.
There, I did. Now I just deleted it. Okay, so yeah, so I just finished doing. So in my course, I have this like the Limitless Live, and it's now, of course, it's not showing.
That's okay. I'll bring my. I thought it was going to come.
I know it was really fancy before, but
you were just perfect.
I'll do the camera change again. There we go.
All right. You were perfectly imperfect just now.
Perfectly imperfect. I don't know. I'm figuring it all out, and I think that there are a lot of people who watch me online and who have seen me who think that I have this like perfect, amazing life is great and everything I do is like I'm successful from the very start of everything. And the truth is that I fucking work my ass off. Oh, there's a second one. Sorry. I work my ass off. And I feel like there's a responsibility to show people the work and also the difficulty that goes into it, because I think, look, like when you take a math test, your teacher doesn't go, oh, there's the right answer, check, you get the credit. Like you have to show your work. Like we get credit for showing our work. And I think we get credit in life for showing our work. So I'm just trying to show my work. You know, I think everybody wants to cheer on our successes, but they really want to cheer on our successes if they've also seen the process along the way. So
Yeah.
I think it's unfair to tell people that I just woke up like this, because I didn't. I woke up like a ton of shit. But this is great. I'm happy that it's.
And that's why, like, it's one of the things why I decided that I would not. The irony is probably at the time the most famous person that I'd had on was Mark Bombach, who wrote Defending Jacob.
Yes.
And produced it. And so I decided to put on a suit. I was still wearing shorts, but I put on a suit. First time I'd probably worn a tie since my bar mitzvah. And he was like schlumpy in a t-shirt. He was like, I didn't realize I had to dress up for this. I'm like, you know what? And I just pulled my tie off and threw it off. And it was, I overdressed almost to make a point, but this is naturally who I want to be. I always wonder, like, when you see all these talk show hosts, why are they wearing ties and CNN correspondent? Why wear a tie? It just seems so stiff. The world doesn't wear ties anymore. What are they going to wear? A top hat? I don't think so.
Yeah, it's really funny. And I think, there's this question of like, do you want to be a voice of authority or do you want to be relatable? And I think they're two very different things. And, I come out of the world of politics. So, you see a lot of politicians trying really hard to be relatable, but they're really hard being relatable in their like, $200 Oxford cloth shirt. It's like, okay, just because you took the tie off doesn't make you relatable. So I don't know. I mean, I show up on my lives wearing formal TV makeup if I'm about to do an interview, or I show up having like literally like just come back from a run and I'm like, hi, good to see everybody, like wiping off my sweat. I show up with like my hair in a ponytail. I just try to be me. By the way, fun fact about Defending Jacob, it took place in Newton, Massachusetts, where I live. It's in my town.
I know this. And
it's
in fact,
the only fun fact of the entire show, of course, because
Well, I actually didn't know. I didn't know you lived there. It would be a little creepy if I did, but I know it was in Newton. And what actually happened was in the after show, it was on a Sunday, and I didn't know whether there'd be like 100 people in the after show. There were two, and it was Steve Garfield and Millie Garfield, and Steve's mom.
I am a Millie maniac. I am a Millie maniac. I love her.
And it was the best after show I ever had. And it was so funny because, you talk about like feelings like, huh?
Yet.
Oh, I mean, before today, obviously. That is, wait, hold on. Go to banners, find the thing, do the, there we go. Don't join us for the Zoom after show where Laura won't help you get unstuck. So there you go, bit.ly/CoronaTV after show. Right there. Okay. What was I going to say? Oh, so the funny thing is, Laura, is like, this is all about audience, right? Respecting audience, connecting with audience, appreciating audience, even one person. I'll tell you this Zoom after show that we have regulars, 3 or 4 or 5 people, and they're in every day. And you know what? One day that one doesn't come, they'll either text me and say, I can't make it today, or I'll say, are they pissed off with me? Like, did I do something wrong? And that's what you realize, it's quality over quantity. So there you've got Steve and Millie, and they're asking him questions about, Steve is showing his mom's got a blog. Of course, Millie's got a blog. But he asks a question about, Steve, just help me.
This is the best. The I can't open it blogspot is my favorite, where she like literally can't open jars and bottles and bags, and she's like, I can't open it. It's the best.
Yeah. Steve, thank you for just doing what you did next, because I was just about to say that because you knew where I was heading. But I had another idea, which is I think I'd like to have Millie Garfield on the show.
I'd watch that.
So, Steve, I'm going to send you, I'll see you afterwards. I'd like to have your mom on the show if she would agree to be my guest. But we're not going to do cocktails, though, because, we'll do coffee. We'll do Corona coffee. So so what Steve knew, where he knew I was going was, Steve lights up and he talks about Lenny Clark, that Lenny Clark was in the show. And for those of you that don't know, and I didn't know either, so what Mark was saying is he was talking about the casting. He was talking about Chris Evans. He was talking about all the main characters. But then he said when they got to a certain rest of the cast, they went to all the locals. And that is, it is authentic and it's deliberate and it's also smart and strategic. And what Steve recognized immediately was Lenny Clark, that he was the guy operating the coffee vending, what do you call it, the bodega, etc. And as he spoke and acknowledged Lenny Clark, Mark Bombach's eyes lit up, and the two of them were just like, just having a one-on-one conversation. And Mark was so appreciative that Steve acknowledged the small things, and it was just beautiful. And then when I took that video and edited it and put it online, you can only see the two of them talking, and it just underscored the importance of everything we're talking about today.
Yes. It's incredible. I love that. And it is the small things. And I think it is about taking your audience seriously. Before writing Limitless, I spent 20 years doing executive search, and I did executive search for nonprofit organizations. And I interviewed, in socially responsible businesses, and I interviewed people from every single sector, and I helped people make career transition from every sector. But the work we did really mattered. Like, we placed the executive director of the ACLU of Missouri about a month before the Ferguson riots happened. Like, the work we do matters. And it was so important to get the work right. And now I speak and I do podcasts and I do media and I write books, and people come up to me and they send me messages and they're like, hey, I read your book. And I had somebody who was like, I read the first half of your book and I quit my job. And I was like, you should read the other half.
And the second half says, don't quit your job.
Right. But people come up to me and they'll tell me things like, I had a guy who left me a 5-star review on Amazon. And the review said something like, I read this book and it finally gave me the permission to leave my tenured professorship of philosophy and logic at a university to follow my dream of writing science fiction. That's incredible. But there's a burden on you when you are giving people advice to get it right, because if you get it wrong, you could really mess people up. And, as you know, there are a lot of speakers who are all about is it about the bit? Is it about the joke? Is it about blocking? Is it about body language? Is it about this? Is it about that? And I'm like, yeah, it's about all those things, but it's about the content. It's about respecting your audience. It's about getting it right, because if you get it wrong, there's serious consequences there.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a huge point. And, the one thing that has come out of this, certainly for me, is I've almost said, I'm going to try and write maybe a little soliloquy on this at one point, but I said, here is, you want the secret or the recipe for success? I will give you the secret. It's 3 things. Now, I might change it, but this is what I think it is. Love what you do, be true to yourself, i.e. authentic, and 3 is just do it long enough. That's it.
Oh, it's all about the reps. I always say that the secret to success is show up, shut up, and do the work. But yours is better, because mine is just about the 3rd piece. I think this love what you do and be authentic to who you are. I know that I am always in my best when I'm from my place of expertise and I'm speaking from my heart, when it's about what I hold dear. Because I can't fake it. You asked the question, have I ever done that bit about Bronner's and the Christmas ornaments from stage? If I were giving, sales talks all the time, that's a great story for how do you bring meaning into the work you're doing and why does it matter? But I just it's not that exciting to me, right? I could give that talk. I could do the empowerment talk. I could also take Limitless and the whole thing about how do you find work that it puts you in alignment and flow with who you are. And I could do it for managers. How do managers actually help engage their teams? I did that for 20 years. It's just not that interesting to me.
Speaking of which, I saw this and I wanted you to just talk about it. You said, I help people discover their consonance, how they align what they do with who they are to achieve their limitless potential. I show people their greatness, encourage them to forge ahead, demand more, and become the best versions of themselves. And so I looked up the definition of the word consonance, and I just loved what came out, this idea of correspondence of sounds, harmony. How do you define consonance? Because I think it's a beautiful thought about us somehow getting back into alignment with the universe.
So here's a really simple way to think about it. Think about those moments in time when the very best of what you do, what you love to do, what you're good at, is being called upon to solve a problem that you actually care about. And you're being rewarded for that problem in some way that's actually meaningful to you, whether it's financial or psychological, karmic, whatever it is. The very best of what you do is being called upon to solve a problem you care about, and you're being rewarded for in a way that is meaningful for you. That is when the what you do matches the who you are, and you are absolutely in alignment and in flow and in total consonance with yourself. I think that's a pretty good place to be. That's what you're doing right now. That's what I'm doing right now. We are lucky to be able to do that, but it's also because we have taken the lessons from 40 years. I don't know how old you are. I'm 49. So
49 too.
Yeah.
When are you 50?
Life.
When
February.
are you 50?
February.
December.
We'll have to. We should have Corona cocktails then.
And looks like we'll be celebrating at home still. God forbid,
Yeah.
but you know.
Today is actually my husband's birthday, and we're in a little group text. We call it the kibbutzim, right? This is like us and another family. We're sort of like family, and the younger girl in that family is 15 years old, and she turned 15 right after we all went into quarantine. So I sent her a little like, sorry, your birthday's during a pandemic. And then the father actually sent it back to my husband today, and he was like, I can't believe I'm sending you back the same little meme that you sent to my daughter 4 months ago. And he said, I hope I'm not sending this back to you in February for your birthday, Laura. And I'm like, you won't be, because it'll be murder-suicide before that.
Well,
I am.
No, I was going to say happy birthday to your husband. I would have included him, you know, if he was.
He's not on social media.
Oh, he's the one. No,
Yeah.
thank God. I think more and
one.
more people are getting off social media. You know, less social media, more streaming media. That's what I say.
Streamers.
Well, okay. So I there is so much still to talk about, but I just want to like go backwards and say. It strikes me, it's remarkable. We'd never met until just now, until like, and I feel, you know, you say I feel like I've known you all my life, but I feel like I want to know you all my life. Maybe I should say. This has been amazing. I've got to say, like my mom, who is also one of my number one fan, and my mother-in-law. Sorry, my two number one fans. She said, "Get up, dress up, show up, never give up." So. They're all building on what you said, Laura, not what I said. But Ma, just want to tell you, if I get Millie Garfield on the show, you can come on the show too. So
you're gonna get in trouble.
start doing your makeup. Laura, I'm gonna let you have the last word. But normally, what I always say is, what advice would you give people at home? I think this whole show has been that. And I think that, we spoke about promotion earlier. And one of the things that really resonated with me is when somebody has to tell somebody else how intelligent or awesome they are, they're probably not that intelligent or awesome. And you didn't have to do that. You just, as you say, if people like what I have to say, and if they gravitate and if they identify, they'll go find the book, they'll read more. But I'm not going to allow them just to randomly go and I'm going to tell them, in fact, I won't even scroll it. I will take off the scroll and I will say that like all keynote speakers and authors and coaches and entrepreneurs and good people, they own their domains. So you can go to Laura Gassner Otting, find out more about her book and your course. I mean, I think that's amazing that you just created that in the pandemic, didn't you? That didn't exist before.
I did, because I had this worry that all of a sudden I was going to get sick. I thought we were all going to get sick immediately. And so I was like, I better do this before I get sick. So I posted on Facebook, hey, I need some help putting the final touches on a project I've been working on for the last year. Who wants to give this a try? And within an hour, like 150 of my friends like raised their hands. So suddenly I had 150 beta testers of a course that I hadn't even written the first word of the script for, or even had to figure out how to film. So talk about an accountability plan, right? Like all of a sudden I'm like, I better get that done.
And that's all part of reinvention. And now you have a new revenue stream, and you're also reaching different people in different ways. And it's fantastic.
Yes.
Well, Laura and I are going to head over to the Zoom room right now. Come and join us if you're still around, although it is a beautiful day in the Northeast. And the beauty of the show, I guess, is the content will live on forever. Sometimes we don't want it to, but for the most part, we do. So the Zoom after show will be on my YouTube channel as well. Laura, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, and we'll continue the conversation now.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and I look forward to going wherever we're going.
We're going.
We're going.